Welcome to the Digital Dreaming Off the Gridiron podcast. It is your host, Oscar Lee. I'm joined today by my co-hosts with the most, Cortez Branch, and his teammate from Team International USA, Devon. So actually, before we get started, why don't we just go ahead? Obviously, I'm going to give a few words, in loving memory of what's obviously on the screen. The Iron Sheik, who passed away yesterday at the age of 80 at his home in Georgia. The Iron Sheik was a one-time WWF World Heavyweight Champion. He defeated Bob Backlund for the title back in 1984, and then essentially he held it for, I believe, a little under a month before he lost it to Hulk Hogan. Many people consider the Iron Sheik to be a pioneer for wrestling, as well as, myself being a Muslim, a former, and Muslim athletes around the world, and obviously most pro wrestlers such as Mustafa Ali, Mansoor in the industry, WWE today, and Sami Zayn as well. Can't forget him, obviously, right? It's incredible how much strides, the Muslim wrestlers have made. Iron Sheik being a pioneer of that. So let me just open up the floor, to my co-hosts Cortez and Devon. If you have an opinion, you can chime in. If not, that's fine. But kind of what is Iron Sheik's legacy, and kind of what do you feel about obviously his passing, and just in a nutshell, Iron Sheik's impact, to the world of pro wrestling.
Number one, Iron Sheik is the first non-stereotypical representation that Middle Easterners, Muslims have had in the WWE. He showed them a positive version of what a heel or face could be in his position without having too much subterfuge and without being comedy or a comedy actor and something to laugh at. And that did a lot, not just for Muslims, but for a lot of the Black entertainers that were there as well, because as everyone knows, wrestling started as a down south, good old boy thing before it decided to go global. And everyone did not have representation. Everyone did not have the ability to become the champion. So when he became champion, it showed everyone that everyone else could do this and everyone else could be a part of this as well. So Iron Sheik, we do thank you for for being there and being as strong as you were and showing the rest of the world, as well as the United States, more importantly, in my opinion, that people of other nationalities, people of other races, and people of other religions can all come together and enjoy this sport without having real, and I say real fights because there's lots of backstage shoot fights that go on, but without having real fights and backlash over a champion that doesn't look like the average guy from Alabama.
Yes, sir. Totally second that. Devin, I don't know if you have any thoughts. If you don't, that's fine too. But if you do, feel free.
Hey, well said.
Yeah, no, it's definitely, I feel like, it's twofold, right? Like you said, Cortez, like it wasn't just for Muslim athletes, for all minorities, because like you said, back in the day, you can hear Teddy Long, Rodney Mack, another African-American wrestler, guest of the show. You can hear them kind of talk about and shoot about it, about how it was, Teddy Long, you can go and see it's well documented. Some of the most premier prominent names during that time, the 70s and 80s, in the South, how much of the racism was there and how much of a centralized theme it was, in pro wrestling, promotional, it just, regional promotions, which it was back then. And obviously, that still carried over, I want to say, up until, I want to say the turn of the millennium. So essentially, I think, to your point, I agree, all entertainers across the world. And Iron Sheik was one hell of a funny motherfucker too. I'm not gonna lie, the Hulk Hogan's, I mean, sheesh, the Bubba's, Jabronis on Twitter, I'm gonna miss that. I followed him, I followed him like, very, very strongly. It's just, man, I'm gonna miss that. So, we're the legends of the past are dropping, and we gotta just appreciate them while they're here before they're gone. So. All right. Any other closing thoughts for Iron Sheik? Cortez, anything else you want to
add? I just want to say, let this be a lesson to anybody watching. This show has lots of sports fans, especially football and especially wrestling, and they really go hand in hand. As you can see, from every college campus that's on the earth to overseas, as Devin can see, and we'll get into that later on today, to the NFL and everything right here. Guys like Travis Kelce and Rob Gronkowski and Reggie Bush have all shown how much the wrestling itself has an impact on professional football and professional sports as a whole. You're not going to go to a championship game in this country or pretty much any other country now at this point without seeing a championship belt on display. And that's something that wrestlers had proven. That didn't happen with boxing. That didn't happen with boxing. It did happen with UFC. And matter of fact, the UFC's belts are influenced directly by professional wrestling. And our culture is influenced directly by professional wrestling. I mean, if you didn't go to school in the 90s and where you didn't get expelled or suspended or at least sat in time out for crotch chopping, I don't know if you ever lived a life. So my point goes is thank you, Iron Sheik. Thank you, WWF and WWE and the WWF for allowing people to get representation at a time in our country where no one else was able to get any. Because mainstream television would not put that guy on TV in the 70s. Mainstream television would not put that guy on TV in the 80s, the 90s. And hey, Mustafa Ali, hey, Adil, I'm talking to you. I know you know me, bro. I remember you. Big props on everything you're doing right now. Don't let it get you down that you can't win yet. There's just too many big names in front of you. And you know what? You'll get there too. Look at your boy Kofi. It took him 11 years, man. You're well on your way. You've been doing a great job. You're representing the streets of Bolingbrook very well as our hometown of Chicago.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. I'm going to go ahead and just close it out with obviously what you just said, Cortez. Obviously, Iron Sheik being a great amateur wrestler as well. And that also carried over. You can see Iran, having a great tradition producing amateur wrestlers with another friend, not necessarily a friend, but obviously another hero who I idolized growing up, Kurt Angle, who beat Abbas Jadidi in the finals of the 1996 Olympics to win his gold medal with a broken freaking neck.
And so broken freaking neck.
All right. So yeah, let's recipes Iron Sheik. We're gonna miss you, but you've definitely paved the way for many others. So let's go ahead. Now we're gonna transition over. I want to introduce my co-hosts a little bit more further, kind of give them the floor to kind of talk about what Cortez alluded to about football and the parallels of pro wrestling. Braun Strowman is actually a former semi-professional football player, in case anyone didn't know that, before he got into the WWE. Many other, football players who are in the wrestling industry, they also play football, myself included. I played. Ken Shamrock was also a semi-professional football player like myself.
Yes, he was.
So Cortez, go ahead, introduce our guest of today, Devon.
Okay, so without further ado, some of you watching this show right now, they've seen these two faces together a lot. And for those of you in Costa Rica, the number 24 and the number 9 will cause nightmares for the rest of your life because you almost had a perfect day until you stepped onto the field. And I just want to say that, there's a lot of people that I've met in my life. There's a lot of people that, I consider my friend. There's not that many people that my dad has adopted, considering that he has 7 kids and 5 boys. I would say for him to pick up another one would be, monumental. And for my entire family and everyone that's ever met him, they have always the same thing to say, and that's, we're really surprised that you guys aren't actually blood brothers. So I am super excited today that 2 of my most favorite people are in the same chat room to have a discussion today. And I'm going to be that guy. I'm going to gush over how amazing it is to have these kind of friends. I don't think everybody understands how great it is to have friends like this, especially friends that you can share your passion and share a backfield with. This dude, I'll have his back for my entire life, because from the moment that I met him through a chat message for a football team, wearing the red, white, and blue, he has been there for me, has never left, and I don't think that he ever will. Suffice it to say, to our lady friends, whenever we get them and whenever we have them, whenever we put rings on, if we ever do, to do us part, number 9, straight to 24. Welcome, Devon, to Digitally Dreaming Beyond the Gridiron.
Hey, thanks, man. Thanks. I'm very honored to be here, and looking forward to a great show.
100%. Let's kind of actually get into it. So let's talk about Team USA International. Cortez, last time you were on, you mentioned Costa Rica, you mentioned the game, you came back, very successful trip. Devon, I want to hear from your perspective, kind of give us a little more insight, kind of from your perspective, obviously, with Team USA International and kind of what you're up to on the gridiron, outside of Team USA, because from what I've heard, it sounds like you've been also kind of crossing borders outside of just Team USA International.
Yeah, Team USA has definitely opened a lot of doors for me, Cortez included. We've got to see just great parts of the world, travel and build friendships and brotherhoods through that. And there's no camaraderie quite like the one that's forged on the football field. There's nothing quite like it. I know you've experienced it before, Ali, and it's just a different level. Yeah, it's definitely just a different level of friendship and brotherhood that you build through those battles.
100%. No, totally it is. So
I have an interesting anecdote. So the last time that you guys saw each other, I remember Devin walks over to me and Devin goes, "Hey man, that dude's been here all weekend." I'm like, "Yeah, he has." And he was like, who the hell is that? And I'm like, that's one of my homies from Chicago. Like, he got invited to be, so the previous iteration of Team USA, not going to go into that, not going to have to talk about that too much, but that in Vegas that year in 2019, he was asking, because he was like, "Oh, he looks like a football guy, but like, I don't remember him." Because mind you, we'd already been together as a team for 3 years.
Yeah.
And so he's like, "Who's that guy?" I was like, he got brought in an administrative position. And let me tell you, his administrative skills are freaking fantastic. Like, because he got to see, so you don't know this, Ali, but every time we had a new discussion about policy, uniforms, and everything that we were doing here, Devin got to see it. I would send it to him and ask him his opinion on what we were creating. And if it was, if it seemed like, "Man, that's trash," I'm like, "Look, man, we're not doing that." So, I had to seek a second opinion or an outside opinion to bring it to us, to be like, "Okay, well, I think it's all right. Let me ask him real quick." "No, man, I don't like that." I'm like, "You know what? Now that I look at it again, I don't like it either." And that's not just being a yes man. That's literally outside eyes have a bet. Like, there's an old saying in psychology, as you know, that was my major. In psychology, it's in sociology especially, it's you can't see your own ears.
Yeah.
And so him not being a part of that, being able to send it to him and ask him, and it's funny because he does it with me too. He'll ask me, "What do you think about this?" It's because an outside opinion is going to give you a little bit more clarity on what you're in the middle of.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that, having guys like us to bounce things off of each other, where we're not all the same person. We have similar ideas and similar ideals. But when I ask you, "Hey man, do you think this is a good idea for something that we're going to talk about?" And you say, "Cortez, that's not a good idea to talk about." I'm like, "You know what? In hindsight, that's not a good idea to talk about. We're going to skip right on over that one."
100%.
So I had to add that because I thought it was pretty funny, because he was there and you were there. And at the time, neither one of you were suited up, but you were both members of the team for USA that year on our sidelines. Because, they don't let anybody just walk on the sideline.
Yeah.
They're both just walking around. You with the belts. I remember you had your belt and mine, walking around with 2 belts.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Dude's just walking around with 2 belts. The game's not even over yet."
Hey, man, it was 45-0 at that point. I mean, what it was left. You know what I'm saying?
At that point, I was walking around hanging out with y'all because they took my helmet. I had 200 yards and 2 touchdowns. That was nothing else for me to do.
Beast mode, baby. It's over. No, it's funny because, Gabe Martinez is also coaching now down in Texas, right? You're coaching indoor football. Or actually, no, he's coaching I apologize, the Ostrava Steelers out in Europe. He basically said, like, when he saw me the first time, he said the same thing. He's like, "Hey, yo, Cortez, who's this motherfucker with the belt walking around?"
Yes, he did. Yes, Martinez did.
Yeah.
Not even just Martinez, but like the Texas guys are hilarious. The Texas coaches and players, those dudes are funny, man.
Funny as hell.
Oh man, wherever there's a game, them Texas boys driving. It don't matter. They'll get in the car 4 deep, drive 14 hours overnight. They don't care.
All facts.
So you mentioned Ostrava Steelers. Devin, why don't you tell us a little bit about Europe?
Yeah. Oh man, it's been great, man. I was in Hungary for a little bit and had a good time there. Made some good memories there, and then was fortunate enough to move to my current situation where I'm at now in Germany, just playing here, and it's been a wonderful opportunity. I'm glad I got the opportunity to see Hungary, Austria, Germany, played in Costa Rica this year, got games in America later this year. So I mean, I'm playing in 5 countries this year. So I mean, super blessed to be able to do that and just see parts of the world. And football made it all possible.
Me and Cortez talked about this last time he was on the show, and what people don't understand is how much of an international footprint football has outside of, kind of the major leagues, outside of kind of the CFL, outside the NFL, outside of NFL Europe, right? Now you have, like you said, this whole European scene, and I've had guests, not just, from Team USA or National, not from the guys who I played with, obviously like Cortez, or guys who I met through playing like you, or be administrative, whatever, right? What have you, right? In Chicago or just in Texas, right? I have guys who actually are in California who actually know guys who I went to high school with who are actually going overseas to go play in Germany, go play in Poland, guys who I played JUCO with, right? So talk to me a little bit about kind of how that feels for you, because what's being in America. First, actually, let me ask you this. as an American import going to play overseas, kind of what is that, like you said, the experience of seeing new countries, but kind of what is that process like? You know, is there a transfer system? Is there, you know, when you sign, like, you know, is there a certain waiting period? Like, and, you know, obviously what is that process? And then secondly, you know, kind of how do you see football, like, you know, from your perspective, now that you've kind of gotten your feet wet in Europe and, you know, obviously, like you said, in different countries around the world, kind of what is your perspective on the international game?
Oh, it's definitely growing. Definitely getting a lot bigger. It was cool because the same day I signed to come to Frankfurt, the NFL schedule released, and they said they got 2 games in the city that I'm playing in for this upcoming season.
Yes,
So I'm
sir.
like, man, you know, that's awesome that it's just growing. They're doing the NFL Europe games, and that's been really cool. And then I feel like as an American, I'm definitely there's no waiting period. I mean, I signed here, arrived on Tuesday, replayed on Saturday, my first game in Germany, and it was like that in Hungary too. We just off to the races immediately. So I mean, it depends on what league you're in. Hungary, you can only have 1 American on the field at the time, and in Germany, where I'm at right now, the current league, you can do 2 imports. So you can have 2 imports on the field at a time.
Exactly. So that's why I asked that question, because I wanted to kind of, and you just answered it, because, you know, obviously the rules and kind of the imports, you know, the same thing process. Guests of the show who have also, you know, talked about their experiences playing overseas, you know, they basically said, you know, sometimes, you know, in Poland or where have you, right, you may be able to get the opportunity to kind of get more reps or basically be traded amongst different teams because of that quota system that they have, you know, for imports and, you know, American, you know, transfers. So I think that's kind of great. So obviously, like, tell me about kind of what is that like for you? Obviously, what's a difference that you see in the European game versus the American game? Do you see any, like, is the pace different? Are the rules, you know, talk to me about that, those dynamics.
A lot of the leagues follow the NCAA rules.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, but other than that, I'd say just experience, you know, like I feel like as soon as I got here, I was kind of looked at as a leader of the team, not only as the quarterback, but as an American coming here. Just everybody kind of just picking my brain. You know, I'll stay after practice and answer questions for 20, 25 minutes about, hey, what do you think about this? Should we implement this? Should we do this? What do you think about this play, that play? You know, and that's input from the coaching staff and administration as well. You know, I feel like they have a lot of respect for me and what I've done previously with my international team in USA. And I feel like that kind of it resonates as kind of the status quo, you know, like America is at the top, and just to be an American and come over to Germany and help the game, help them learn and expand the game, and just kind of like be able to pick my brain and like just learn from each other has been really awesome.
100%. Cortez, I think I think what I want to ask, kind of on back to our last topic on last show, kind of, you know, before, you know, I mean, actually after Costa Rica, and kind of, you know, with the schedule of U.S. International, kind of what Devon just talked about with the NFL schedule now expanding to, you know, Germany over the 2 games. And now they're basically going to continue that going because they had a record attendance last year in both those Frankfurt games. So Tom Brady, your boy, basically won that game, right, last year against Seattle, you know, against the team who I hate as a 49ers fan. We'll talk about 49ers in a minute. But kind of what is your take? Because now that you obviously, you've been in the game for a minute too, but you obviously have been kind of focused, you know, within the domestic teams, kind of traveling internationally as opposed to kind of. So what is your take now? Because obviously, you know, you've been to Costa Rica, you've been to, you know, so I mean, talk to me about that a little bit.
It's kind of interesting. So I would have been in Hungary as well. They offered me a contract and I rejected it. And I rejected it for 2 reasons. The first reason is because he told me that he wanted me to play linebacker. Now, had this been 6 to 7 years ago, I probably would have been like, screw it. Yeah, I'll play linebacker. But I asked him in a follow-up, I said, why do you want me to play linebacker so bad? I need to be in the backfield running the football. And you need quarterback protection. Obviously, you have, you know, Mr. LeSure as the quarterback. And what better dynamic duo than us 2 on the field? And his answer was pretty stern. We can only have 1 American on each side of the ball. That's an import to actually play. It's not like you can hide it and say I'm from, you know, Germany or you know, Austria, because I'm not there. I don't speak the language. My name doesn't look the same, and I'm black. You know, and I'm Jamaican. I'm black as hell. You know what I'm saying? Like, especially out there, I'm darkest thing on the street. you know, and so that we wouldn't have been able to hide that very well. Not to mention, you see two very different last names compared to everyone. Like they got so many apostrophes and tildes in their names, like it's worse than Mexico, you know. So they would have noticed that, you know, like it's kind of like like I said, I you know how horrible I am at Arabic.
Yeah.
You've heard me try to speak Arabic before. Like I just can't make that sound. I can't do it. It's the same with my horrible Hebrew. It's like, I can't do. That's a skill. It's a skill that I don't possess. My mouth doesn't do that. But so I've watched every game minus one that he's had. I've got to see a bunch of highlights from that one game that I missed. And the one thing that I will say is, as far as it's a level of urgency that they are developing. And Devin coined a phrase that I've taken with me since before we even entered the international journey, and that's making American football global.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really important that other people understand that this game goes beyond the borders of the United States.
Right. And
every time that you see other people playing, because think about it, if you look at the sales, that America doesn't even account for more than like 65 to 70% of total sales of the NFL's sales revenue. Other countries are purchasing the sport. Other countries are buying into this. Other countries are developing leagues. Other countries are developing like lesser known leagues like the X League in Japan. That league is an amazing league. The X League could rival probably any D3 college football program in the United States. The X League could rival them. And they have 3 divisions of the X League. You have the X League Pro League, you have the X League 2, which is basically their semi-pro or minor leagues, and then you have the third league, which is the college league they have there. But the difference between what they're doing and what's going on here is they're playing in the Tokyo Dome. They're playing in the biggest stadiums in the biggest cities in Japan. Now, Japan's not very big. California is bigger than Japan, but the simple fact of the matter is that over there, they're playing in the biggest stadiums. We played in the first American football game in Costa Rica in their national stadium, which is reserved for FIFA games. The World Cup ran through Costa Rica a few years back. And, it's paramount that football be played in big stadiums. And I know that's going to annoy a lot of people, but if you've never done it, don't have an opinion on it. Football needs to be played in big places. The atmosphere is different. The sounds of the crowd are different. The loudspeakers are different. Looking up at a giant screen and seeing your replay with your face on it, it motivates you in a way that almost nothing else does. And to be able to experience that in this country, and the next one, and the next one, other countries are gearing up for an American football showcase in Italy this fall. And after this fall, the game of American football will globalize. It is the first real live sanctioned by every league World Cup of American football that has ever been had. This is the closest that American football has ever gotten to being voted into an Olympic sport or even a World Games, which will probably what will happen first. It'll probably be FIBA style.
It'll definitely happen, man. I'm glad you pointed to that because the gap between America and other countries is closing. Like the talent gap is just it's not the same as it was 20, 30 years ago when you could put 2 Americans on a football team and pretty much you were almost guaranteed to win your league in Europe. That's not the case anymore. And it's definitely growing. That talent gap is definitely not the same as what it was. And I could feel the trend will just keep going. Like other teams and other countries the talent gap is closing. It's not going to be the same. And I feel like it could very well turn into an Olympic sport one day.
And I want to just kind of what you just said, Devin, right there was a very critical and massive point because on this show, a teammate against a guy who I played against in college who was on the show, Kevin Bai, went to go play in Poland. he was actually led our JUCO conference and he led the state. He was in QB passer rating. He was first in passing yards in our conference. He led his JUCO DeAnza College against us, West Valley College. He blew us out 44 to like 3 or something like that. This is a very episode. Again. Yeah,
excellent episode, by the way.
Oh yeah, it was. No, it was great. And so kind of, we talked about because he's also a quarterback. He's a QB, right? So he went to go play in Poland. And then basically he said, I asked him what was his opinion about kind of the European game and versus, the American game. And he said exactly what you just kind of alluded to, that, if you think you're going to go there as an American and dominate and fucking just run roughshod over them, that's not the case, right? Because now what you said about that talent gap, right? Go ahead. If you want to go and add that to, because I just like, it just jogged my memory because any time that you watch football now anywhere, right? They're recruiting. They have the NFL international program for a reason. They're recruiting players from Mexico, from all Europe, from Africa, and there's a reason for that. Like what we were just talking about, right? Athletes are now everywhere across the world. I remember one time I was flying
Polynesian Islands, and we're both friends with Lofa
yes.
Tatupu. What's up, Lofa? I know you're watching. You watch every episode. We both appreciate you. I'll give you thanks from Dion, even though you probably was on the phone with him this afternoon. You know this just like we do. Everybody else is coming.
Yeah.
The same thing that happened to basketball is happening to football. And I'm all for it, honestly. I'm all for it. I've been playing this sport my entire life, as have the both of you. And I'm going to say I'm all for it. The better that we continue to get, because talent is being added, new techniques are being added, and a focus is being put on this. The better that it gets, the better that we are for it. The more money that we can make, the more attention that we can garner for something that we truly believe in. And I'm going to tell you right now, I've played almost every sport. I've played multiple sports professionally. And I'm going to tell you right now, the camaraderie that I have found during football is unmatched. It's unmatched.
I want to say one thing because you both brought that up. Like you said, Devin, we started off, to camaraderie in football, obviously brotherhood. And like I said, kind of, like those relationships that you build, they're lifelong, right? Cortez and I, we met each other almost 5 years ago. Well, actually, no, it was 5 years ago. Goddamn. And basically now, it's already been like, and time has flown by now, right? And we're still here connected. What I want to say was, Cortez, you brought up a point about Japan. One of my teammates who was also on the show talked about, Manu Hatakura, right? Who ended up, kind of running, we hit the field, almost two years ago. He basically is still in great shape, and the reason why he was actually on the 49ers camp for a little bit. The reason why he couldn't make the final cut was because of the fact his knee blew out. But, Randy Moss, and he talked about, how Randy Moss said, hey, yo, we got Manu in the locker room because he had all that hair coming out and everything.
Yeah.
And he was lockdown DB. And, you saw how he could run, you can go on IG if anyone is, I haven't been on IG for a minute, folks. I apologize.
Dude was great.
Yeah, dude was great. Dude was great, right? And so ultimately, kind of to the point, like we just said, like, football is everywhere now. So because the fact that football is so widespread, it doesn't matter if you're born and raised here and you go to a D1, you go to a D2, you go to a D3. It helps, absolutely, right? But if you are from a foreign country and like anything else in life, bottom line, if you have the talent, the NFL will find you. Even if not the NFL, the CFL, not the CFL, the USFL, or the XFL, not the XFL and the USFL, so on and so forth, the CIF, right? All these different kind of leagues which are now in existence and have helped grow this game to a net level where it may at some point basically rival the NBA. And so I just thought it was very, very, very fun to kind of talk about this because, something that's very passionate, something close to me. I'm very passionate about, obviously, for, same reasons both you are. But any final thoughts on kind of the international game before we transition to the next topic?
Devin, you can go first.
Yeah, just even seeing, I remember 5-6 years ago, the presentation on like watching overseas games wasn't that great. And now it's, like you said, it rivals maybe even what the NFL is doing as far as camera angles, replays. They have like the capability to challenge plays and get really good like looks at the plays and make the right call. And it's really just expanding like everywhere. It's definitely competing.
I want to take that time to first thank the people of Costa Rica. And I will say this. I think that a lot of times, this ties into everything we've been talking about so far today. I think a lot of times in America that we're taught that we are the best, which is fine because we can be the best at a lot of things. But the one thing that I will say about the Costa Ricans that we got to meet is I don't think I've ever been anywhere and I felt as safe as I felt. in Costa Rica, walking through the streets of Costa Rica, walking into restaurants, just, going into the stadium, having people come up to us and follow us, kids asking for autographs and things of that nature on the beach. It didn't matter. Wherever we were, the people just wanted to be close to us. They didn't want to take anything from us. They didn't want to rob us. They didn't want to hurt us. They just wanted to ask us questions. In my broken Spanish that I'm speaking to them, and them asking me to speak to them in English because they want to learn more English. So talk to them in English, and then whatever they didn't know in English, they ask me in Spanish, and I'll answer. And then don't say it in English now. Fine, no problem. It was a humbling experience, number one, and got me interested and not afraid to go and be in places with the people and to be able to make conversation with people, not just as a tourist, but as a professional. And I want to say that Americans, for all of you guys that are watching, please, and this is not me begging, this is me, urging you with this, please watch something else other than the NFL. We have worked our entire lives to legitimize not the NFL, but the sport. We have worked our entire lives to legitimize the sport, and it's happening. But we need you as a country with some of the most privileges on earth. We need you to support us too.
And that's been the same in my experience in Europe too, and whether it be in Hungary, Austria, Germany, like it's been the same. I've been welcomed, and all these different cultures, they vary, and it's not even as far as like going from Hungary to Austria to Germany. That's like going from Chicago to Minnesota to like the Pacific Northwest, and it's been so many different cultures, but they've been so welcoming and just been so awesome.
100%. No, I appreciate both of you sharing your perspective on that. And I'm just going to second what you both said about expanding, everyone, if you're listening to this, feel free to spread the word, and and we've had other guests as well, Chris Dishman, NFL greats, multi-time Pro Bowl players on the show who end up coaching in the NFL Europe, who coached overseas. And, basically, when I talk about Morocco and how they play over there, what I mean, and how they reach out to me to also go and help out there. That to me is just a positive sign of things to come, because obviously Morocco made their footprint in the World Cup this year in actual, soccer, which is by every other country, especially Europe, Devin, you probably know, they call that football instead of, American football. But essentially, it's incredible to see how much the great game has grown. And Devin, actually, before we transition, I want to ask you one more question, because you mentioned the rules of the NCAA versus NFL. Would you say the game is more faster and that there's more trick plays? And because you mentioned the camera angles and everything, how advanced it is now, would you say that there's more of a higher pace in the European game? And would you say it's a little more physical? In some regards, not necessarily saying it's more physical in the NFL, obviously the highest level competition, but the rules may enable some more physicality, if especially as a quarterback.
Yeah, just kind of even piggybacking off what I said about the different cultures and going from place to place to place, it definitely varies depending on where you are. The style of play, the style of physicality, it's very different. I feel like while I was in Hungary, a lot of teams ran a more like power style offense, just straight running up the middle all the time. I feel like since I've been in Germany, I've seen more of an air attack approach. Same within Austria a little bit. I mean, it just kind of varies. I mean, the same thing as I alluded to with the different cultures and them being so welcoming, it's different styles of play within those cultures too, definitely.
100%. All right, so now we could transition. Actually, before we get into wrestling, I want to talk about tomorrow football. I'm going to stay with that trend and that theme. I want to talk about the NFL. I don't know, Devin, who your favorite team is. I'm a 49ers fan. Cortez, obviously Bears, he supports his man Brady, and I think he's somewhat Patriots, but not really. Obviously, he's Bears for life. So talking about the 49ers, obviously, the news that came out of camp recently, Brock Purdy, if he's cleared to go, will go. And obviously Trey Lance and Sam Darnold are kind of duking out for the camp of obviously the starting position as QB. Devin, from your perspective playing quarterback, obviously Brock's surgery and his repair time, they were anticipating him not to be ready until week 6 because obviously I think it was that ulnar joint. I forgot what joint it was, the Tommy John, but whatever that joint is, obviously in his throwing arm, which Hassan Reddick, right? And you probably know about that. So what is your take right now? Is it indicative, do you think, that of Trey Lance's lack of development, or do you think that it's just because Brock Purdy, he has some super kind of recovery time to kind of come back from that type of injury.
Man, it's good to be a 49ers fan, isn't it? Just because they just have an embarrassment of riches at quarterback over there.
Every year.
They don't have one answer who that guy is. It could be, with the brilliance of Kyle Shanahan, that could be week to week. You know what I mean? Like, and it's just, I feel like it speaks to even his talent level that he's considered, a quarterback whisperer, so to speak. Yeah. And I feel like he proves it time in, time out. It doesn't really matter who you plug in. You could plug in Brock Purdy, who was Mr. Irrelevant, drafted last season, and he shines in it. And I'm a big Brock Purdy fan. I hope he gets healthy sooner than later. But yeah, I think I'm rooting for Brock Purdy to definitely get back in there and show what he can do. Definitely, just as like kind of that underdog mentality. And just now he's just gone from Mr. Irrelevant to the man and balling in the playoff season.
100%. But I think kind of with that injury, though, do you think he'll be ready by week 1? Because that's be surprising.
That's tough. I wouldn't assume so. I'd say, like you said, I'm assuming week 6. But, I mean, with that, it could almost be someone else's job at that point. So I know he's in a hurry to get back. But I wouldn't assume he'd be ready by week 1. Not at all.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of where I was going with this, because I think Trey, that's kind of showing. I think that's still that they invested a lot of draft capital in Trey to get him at 3rd overall 2-3 years ago, and now he's basically entering his 3rd year. He's been marred by injuries. His first year, he only played 1 game. The second game he played 1 game, and then he got he tried to. And Kyle Shanahan, I mean, I'm not sure if it was the right call, but he tried to kind of run that Josh Allen power sweep up the middle. Cortez probably does that all the time, in his games. But basically, the Josh Allen power sweep up the middle when Trey Lance was not necessarily ready or was not. I mean, he's not. The speed isn't there for Trey to kind of. I haven't seen enough speed from Trey to say, okay, I can trust him like a Lamar Jackson, just kind of do the QB draw and either go left or right. So obviously, kind of with Trey, I think it's very telling. It's very concerning personally for me. Obviously, like you said, I agree with you that it doesn't matter who's behind center, but I think that with Trey and obviously all the expectations for him, it's kind of, if they're still considering Brock Purdy in week 1 at this point, then there's something to be said about Trey's development.
I'm going to tell you right now.
What's that?
Go ahead.
If I'm Trey Lance and I watch Brock Purdy get injured in the Super Bowl, and I'm watching. Well, it was the NFC Championship.
But
if I'm watching Brock Purdy get injured in the NFC Championship game, and literally watching FanDuel because it's on the screen in the playoffs, and they see a ridiculous swing of points that's going on the other side now because they see that Purdy can't walk, can't throw, can't walk. He's just basically back there holding a spot because of the NFL rule of, quarterbacks in this game. Then I say to myself, I got an entire offseason to get better from my injury. I am going to come back. See, I'm going to have to take a little pivot on this and give some context here so the regular public understands. As a professional athlete versus a collegiate athlete or a minor league athlete, as a professional athlete, you have one job. Your job, as Devin can attest to you, is to play football. That's the only thing you have to do. You can be a father, that's fine. It's not costing you money, if you did it the right way. If you didn't do it the right way, that's another topic for another discussion. But your job is to play football. So if I'm sitting at home with my leg up in a cast, as I've had to do because of this sport, I'm thinking, look at that guy who replaced me after I got drafted in the 1st round. This guy didn't even get drafted. Mr. Irrelevant, for those of you who don't know, is the very last spot taken in the draft. And because of the very last spot taken in the draft, no one wants you. The team that got you didn't want you. The fact that you made the roster is either because, one, hey, we need somebody to kick around on scout team and make the defense feel good about themselves on Thursday or Wednesday, depending on when your game is. Now, because we have so many Thursday night football games, but We've all played against the scout team and felt amazing afterwards. Oh, we're going to blow these guys out by 48? Because scout team is terrible. The scout team, if y'all didn't know, never touches the football field. They never do. They're just there for us to beat on. Starters in the second string and probably even the third string, because the scout team, especially in the NFL, the practice squad is a scout team. They're not doing nothing. And if you know anything about the old NFL rules, you're only allowed to dress 2 quarterbacks. So the third quarterback is always scout team. He has to train and know all the plays. That's why Brock was able to go in there, know plays, and do his thing after Trey Lance got injured, after Jimmy G got injured, and that landed us on Brock. So if I'm Trey Lance and I'm watching Brock and I'm watching Jimmy G and I see both of them are injured, and I've been injured twice, I say I can't control the injuries, but what I can control is when I am on that field. I'm going to be the most accurate passer that exists. I'm going to be the strongest guy on the field. Might not be the fastest, because a lot of that comes down to biology, but I'm going to be the most intelligent guy on the field. I'm going to be the strongest guy on the field. I'm going to be the most accurate passer on the field. I'm going to know all these plays, and I'm going to command respect under center.
Yeah, and usually what Ali was talking about as far as Trey Lance's development, year 3, as we know, for the NFL quarterback, year 3 is like that barometer. Is he going to be the man, or is he not going to be the man? And I feel like we haven't seen enough of Trey Lance yet because of that. Like, technically it's year 3, but it's not year 3 as far as like the level of experience that he has. So I feel like, I mean, he's in a good situation to learn from Kyle Shanahan and the mastermind that he is. But I mean, you got a lot of people that can shine in that organization too right now, as you can see.
Is he going to be Jalen Hurts, Tua Tagovailoa, and my man, Justin Fields? Or is he going to be Ryan Leaf, Mitchell Trubisky, and I hate to say it, but Rex Grossman? Is he going to be those guys, or is he going to be them boys? That's really the question that we have here right now. Because Trey Lance, if you're watching, I know you're in San Francisco. I know you're in San Francisco, which means you have a greater opportunity to watch this show. And I hope that you do. Call me. Because I'm going to tell you exactly what it is that I think that you should do. And I don't care if Jimmy G is still on the team. I don't care. Well, he isn't. He's in Vegas. But I don't care if Brock Purdy's on the team. I don't care if Purdy Nation's out there, the Brockosauruses that are out there. I don't care about none of that. What I care about is if you want to play football. And if you want to play football, you have a golden opportunity, because they think Brock is better than you, which means they're going to put you out there in the preseason, and they're going to put you out there in the first 6 weeks to play football. They will bring back Brock in week 4 if you jag those first 4 games. So go out there and show these people that you can play football, and then get that contract in Tampa. Wait, what? Yeah. Yeah, that's true, though. Get your contracts.
Yeah, get that contract. I think one thing to note, though, is kind of to that point, is that, kind of what Devin's talked about. I do agree, DJ, year 3 is the barometer. And I do think one more thing which is really telling, is the fact that Greg Papa, who's the play-by-play for the 49ers, even mentioned potentially trading Trey for Brandon Allen, a 32-year-old backup on the Denver Broncos, who's backing up Russell Wilson, who at this stage in his career is not Russell Wilson that we've known, as indicated by last season. And ultimately,
he has a new offensive coordinator, though. The new head coach, play caller. That was a bad situation for him. I think he'll have a better season this season, but he's got to definitely pick it up in Denver. That is not a good look.
No, absolutely. And the problem is, Sean Payne's going to expect a lot out of Russ. You saw how he ran New Orleans, and New Orleans back on there, and there a few years ago, they were a bad call away from a Super Bowl against the Rams. A Super Bowl appearance at least, but. I think that's where, for me as a 49ers fan, I'm cautious. I'm optimistic because, obviously Trey says all the right things. He's a great young man. He's a great kid. And I think there's a lot of good upside with him. Definitely got to, obviously, minority brothers, you definitely got to cheer for them, especially behind center, but ultimately, I think there's still a lot to be seen. NFL is a win now league. And like Shannon Sharp says, you're measured by production, not potential. So that's what it's going to come down to. Speaking of Shannon Sharp, let's talk about Shannon Sharp departing Undisputed, and we're going to talk about the Shannon Sharp and Kwame Brown feud. So let's kind of get right into it. So Shannon Sharpe is now leaving Undisputed. There's been a lot of different podcasts and talk shows talking about the reason for that. Obviously, one of the probably main drive forces was, well, during Undisputed a few months ago, Skip Bayless openly disrespected Shannon Sharpe when he was criticizing Tom Brady. Skip Bayless said, have you won 7 Super Bowls, Shannon Sharpe? And then took off his glasses and said, do you see how you disrespect me? Even though, he said that I don't care about being the greatest of all time, even though Shannon technically is one of the greatest of all time at the tight end position in NFL history, winning 3 Super Bowls and then was the first ever tight end to surpass 10,000 receiving yards at the position. And ultimately, then, I think that's kind of what was the straw that broke the camel's back. Many other NFL players, and former players are basically criticizing and calling Skip Bayless to apologize, which I believe he did not do. And then most recently on the show, kind of the major buzzing headline was essentially Kwame Brown talking about LeBron James not pulling up to the spot, making the shot against the Warriors in the last series of the NBA playoffs, the NBA Western Conference Finals. And basically Shannon Sharpe saying that, clapping back at Kwame, saying that Kwame was saying LeBron should have been great, but Shannon said, no, you should have been great because you were first overall pick. And essentially, because of the fact that you had all these expectations, all this potential, you weren't able to become that great. He's like, what's your end game? You're trying to get more clicks for your podcast and you're a joke. At which point, Kwame Brown responded and said some things which I can't say on the show, but I can't say everything he said on the show. Essentially, saying that, Shannon Sharpe, you a fucking fanboy. You come at me like you LeBron's wife, Savannah. He already has a wife, Savannah. He said in this hall of basketball, you're just a visitor. You are not able to speak on this. And basically he had a whole thing on Carcino and this and that. Shannon never responded, but let me first kind of address both topics. First of all, let me get your take on the Shannon Kwame Brown beef, because I want to know if anyone here believes there was a winner in that, if at all, was it Kwame or Shannon? And secondly, let's talk about Shannon departing, and obviously who do we see as a replacement for Undisputed? And ultimately, I mean, what I am predicting for Undisputed is that the ratings will go down because Shannon Sharpe was the attraction of that show, in my opinion.
Yes.
Obviously, yeah. So yes. Let's get into it.
I'll start.
Yeah.
First, I'll preface this with I like my position and my job here. So I can be a dissenting voice. Let me see if I can adjust that a little bit. Yeah, I can be a dissenting voice, but also, a voice of reason here. Number one, you have a situation with Shannon Sharpe that has two sides to every story. As you know of, we have a wonderful guest here today, but there's usually your opinion, there's my opinion. On a show like Undisputed or First Take, since we can both say that because we're not broadcasting on a major network right now, we can say, honestly, I have to have something that's different than you in order for me to be talking to you. We can't be mirror images of each other and be able to get this out. The second thing that I will say, I'm going to speak straight to the camera when I say this. Shannon Sharpe, while I agree with you on what you said about Kwame, and I'll dive into that, if the appropriate response to what happens when you talk about the undisputed greatest of all time at a position, somebody who has played in 10 of those Super Bowls, 7 of these, could have had more, you lose any credibility. You lose any credibility at all if you attempt to negate or diminish those accomplishments in the situation. Now, me personally, I watched the NFC title game a couple of years ago, and I'm going to say it. Tom Brady didn't lose that game. Tom Brady's cornerbacks and safeties lost that game. That game was done. That game was over. We were celebrating. Devin was on the phone with me. We were celebrating. We're in 2 different states. We're happy. Our boys going back to the Super Bowl. Number 11, y'all. We back to back. Did we not think that?
I did think that. I really did. And then you let the number 1 receiver in the league that year open over the top. I just don't understand that at all.
And we gotta give credit to number 9, like your number, right, Mr. Devon, right, Matt Stafford, because I mean those are 2 of the gutsiest throws I've ever seen a quarterback make in recent memory in playoffs. I mean, that was
nobody would throw it,
right?
Because everything about football tells you don't make that throw,
right?
Now I don't know if that's a decision or a deciding factor on the quarterback. I mean, on the cornerbacks and the safeties that were in Tampa that day. I don't know if that's a deciding factor, but I know one thing. If I'm lining up against the best guy on their team in any scheme, I'm not going to let him get open. I might trip him, because a 5-yard penalty for unsportsmanlike conduct or a personal foul is nothing compared to the 30 seconds left in this game that he could score and we won't have another shot because we're spent. We just went on 3 scoring drives in a row. The offense is spent. They're tired. So how are they going to get down there in 30 seconds? And our quarterback's 50. So that's the first thing that I'm thinking as a player and then as somebody who watches lots of games. Now, so I don't have to go twice. I'm going to address this other situation. Kwame Brown. Shut up. Shut up. The reason why I want you to shut up is because you had chances. You got drafted number 1 overall. You got one of the biggest contracts that a rookie has ever gotten who isn't named Kobe Bryant or LeBron James. And now Wembayamba, he hasn't even gotten a real contract yet. So let's just stick to what we know, okay? You were touted as one of the best guys to ever come out the draft. You had it all. You had size, you had speed, you had presence, you had the look. You made people scared just by walking on the court. I remember being happy that Michael Jordan drafted you. I remember being happy that Michael Jordan came out the front office to play with you and give you direction. And then I was upset because Michael was treating you like one of his horrible sons.
He had a great opportunity to learn from 2 of the best minds that ever played basketball. So if Kobe and Mike don't like you, you losing all the arguments to me. I don't know. That's just my opinion, Mom.
Yeah, I can't diminish your career, Kwame. You made it to the NBA. I'm not diminishing what you actually accomplished. I'm diminishing what you never accomplished. And that's something that you got to understand. You got an opportunity that there's probably 3,000 people in the last 20 years that are better than you that never got a shot at the NBA. There's people in their graves right now that were better than you that never got a shot at the NBA. You got a shot. Kobe did not start when he came into the league. You walked onto a court with Michael Jordan. You walked onto a court with Kobe Bryant. You started. They relied on you. And they have identical pictures of them telling you, I could never ever in my life imagine, and they get on the internet and badmouth Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant. Oh, they didn't care about me. They only cared about themselves. Well, yeah. One of them had 6 rings and everything that you could ever think of that to be able to have done. Let me put this in perspective. Behind me that you guys cannot see, I have approximately 42 pairs of Michael Jordan gym shoes. And Michael Jordan's first gym shoe, and Michael Jordan, move out the way. I'm wearing Jordans in this picture too. I'm wearing Jordan cleats. Back to where I'm at. Michael Jordan was told by Adidas that we want you to average, not Adidas, he was told by Nike. Adidas didn't give him what he asked for. Adidas wanted him to wear the same shoes that a bunch of other people were wearing already. Nike said, we'll give you everything that you're asking for because this guy believes in you. We'll give you everything that you're asking for. Average 20 points or win Rookie of the Year. If you get a Defensive Player of the Year award or if you make the All-Star team. Michael Jordan averaged 28 points a game, became the Rookie of the Year, made the all-defensive team, made the all-offensive team, and was a finalist for MVP. Michael Jordan exceeded Michael Jordan wasn't the first draft pick. He wasn't. Michael Jordan wasn't even number 2. What I'm trying to explain to you is, if you get an opportunity, you make the best out of it. You don't make excuses about why. If the greatest of all time walks up to me and tells me I'm stepping too far to the left, I'm going to move too far to the right until he tells me where I should be at. And then I'm going to know through muscle memory that this is where I'm supposed to be. But no, you ran from your challenges. You ran from your arguments. You got it to the point of where Michael Jordan won't even acknowledge you in an argument. He won't even acknowledge you in an argument. That's how done with you he was. He doesn't even acknowledge you in an argument, man. So you're arguing with people on the internet. You're arguing with people on Instagram. You're arguing with people on Snapchat. You're arguing with people on Twitter. And now you're arguing with very successful people on television who went out there.
Clinging to relevancy.
And won championships. Shannon, I'm on Team Shannon for this one. Shannon is a multi-time champion, possibly the greatest tight end of all time. Arguably the greatest tight end of all time. And yes, I was a Denver Broncos fan. Yes, I still am. I still watch all the Denver games, even if Russ is stinking it up out there with calisthenics. I told Devin to his face. I said, hey, bro, if we're on an international flight to anywhere and you're doing calisthenics and we got a 17-hour flight, I'm beating your ass. I don't care how close we are. I'm punching you in your face. I will apologize and buy you dinner later.
You deserve it at that point.
Right. I'll bring you ice. I'll buy you dinner and I'll buy you a new chain. And I'll tell you, look, hey man, I'm sorry, bro. I shouldn't have done that, but I was trying to sleep, man. You was talking about high knees in the aisle. The aisles are like this big. I'm a big guy. I can barely fit through it. I know you can't. You like 6'19". You know what I'm saying? You don't want that. And so for Russ to be capping, yeah. Hold on. Yeah. I was doing calisthenics. I was hyped. I want to be in London. Don't you got like a $40 million contract for this year? Aren't you married to a superstar? Sit down and shut up. Because I guarantee you those linemen would have sat you down and shut you up. So aside from all the cap and aside from all the Denver hate, I'm going to tell you, I was a Denver fan. I wanted John Elway to win. I was upset that he didn't win 4. I was upset because I thought that John Elway was better than Brett Favre. And I know y'all did too. So for him, Kwame, to come at Shannon Sharp. Now, dude, Shannon Sharp doesn't even play the same sport as you. He's paid to talk about sports, and you're making headlines for being a jerk. Let's call a spade. You're not a 17-year-old, 18-year-old kid walking onto a basketball court with the greatest of all time anymore. You're not a 22-year-old kid that was traded to the other greatest of all time. You're not. You're a grown adult who's edging on 50 who needs to shut up because nobody cares. You should have went overseas. You should have got some championships overseas. You should have made your money. You should have called Stephon Marbury. You didn't do that. So now what do? You talk with your thumbs. And everybody knows that anything typed with a brother's thumbs is probably useless in the court of public opinion. So you keep doing that if you want to. Hold on, Kwame. You ain't got one of these. You can't even come at me. Shut up. I put on all of them. I put on all 4 if I want to talk to you. And I'm going to have another one next month. Let him tweet me. Go ahead, at me on Instagram. You can find me in pretty much any discussion on ESPN talking about how they should be talking about actual sports and not what socks the girls' badminton team are wearing in Colorado.
Facts. I think that's a mic drop. So, I mean, pretty much, yeah, we can wrap up that topic there. Let's talk about, we talk about what we just kind of segued now, the NBA. Obviously, the NBA finals are going on. The Denver Nuggets just took game 3 yesterday. They're up 2-1. Nikola Jokic was the first player in NBA finals history to have 30 points, 20 rebounds, and 10 assists. First player to have multiple 30-point double-doubles in a final series. Let me ask this question, okay? Because obviously, there's this debate going on about the coaching, and me, obviously here in Sacramento, Michael Malone was on the Kings before he went to the Nuggets, and he was not dealt the fortunate hand that Mike Brown was dealt in terms of not taking away Mike Brown who from winning his first ever unanimous Coach of the Year this year, but with Mike Malone, with the Denver Nuggets, with Nikola Jokic playing as well as he is right now, does anyone here on this panel believe that the Miami Heat have a chance to make this a series and come back and win it?
I posted a meme that was a double meme, and we're wrestling fans. One of our favorite wrestlers that's up and coming is L.A. Knight.
Yeah.
And my meme says, is Jimmy's team ass? Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Man, but at the same time, Jokic is putting up numbers. They probably had the easiest run to get to the finals of any team ever. They beat an 8th seed. What was it? Then a 4 seed and a 7 seed and then another 8 seed?
Yep.
It's crazy.
Play-in teams.
Crazy.
They beat play-in teams. Michael Jordan didn't beat no play-in teams. Scottie Pippen didn't beat any teams, but Michael Jordan didn't beat any play-in teams. Sorry, Scottie. Look, man, you
Scotty's going crazy too right now.
Well, okay, look, bro, I'm gonna keep it 100. You are my brother, but if your son starts actually, if your son banged my baby mama, I'm gonna tell him he needs some help. But if your son was banging my ex-wife, I would ask you a question like, hey man, stop with that. You know, but Scotty's felt marginalized his entire career, as he should. It doesn't erase the shame that he should feel for his embarrassment, and it doesn't give him, you know, the carte blanche to go and badmouth somebody that he asked to come back to the sport of basketball on national television, begging like a little kid, pointing at his idol. Okay, so that's really where I'm at with that one, and I don't think that Jokic has broken a sweat this entire series, you know, and I don't think that with his supporting cast, because let's face it, Miami won a game, but in the game that Miami won, Denver posted its worst defensive numbers for the entire postseason. And also, their offensive numbers weren't that great during the postseason either. I mean, for that game either. So every team is entitled to, in a series of 7, a team is entitled to, let's say a bad game. Do I think that they would have lost one game in LA? Yeah, they would have lost that game in LA if the officiating was a little bit better. That's a fact. There's indisputable evidence that the officiating messed up a call that led to Denver winning that game, game 4. Denver would have won anyway. Lakers weren't going to beat them 4 games in a row. You were a play-in team. You overachieved. Good job. I'm not hating on you right now, LeBron. Don't at me. You know, I'm saying that y'all overachieved. Do you expect the championship every time you play and step onto the court? Yes, you do. You should. That's something that, you know, I'm actually glad that you developed over the years, because you realize the one thing that we all realize about sports. Your clock is running out. Every time you step onto the court, the field, the diamond, it could be your last game. The clay, for some people, the pitch, could be your last game. And you know that, and we know that, and you know it even more because the talent around you has changed. The style of basketball around you has changed. And so when Jokic and them are playing the way that they're playing, I don't know how he ever makes a shot, because he has one of the ugliest shots I've ever seen. They always go in. They always go in. He can shoot it over 8-foot tall Anthony Davis and it's still going in, you know, as we saw. And they got lightning in a bottle right now. Jimmy, I liked you in Chicago. I didn't like you in Philadelphia. You know that already. I don't understand why you got fake dreads at the beginning of the season, but that's cool too.
Yeah.
I just don't think I don't think your supporting cast is better than his supporting cast. And I think that's all this is coming down to right now. Jimmy, you're amazing, all-star hustle basketball player. I've talked great about you while you were in Chicago, and now, you know, this run that you're having in Miami. You know, but let's face the facts here. Your supporting cast is not great. They're all role players, and Miami got you on a discount from another team, and that happened for a reason. So let's just be honest here.
I mean, I really hope Miami can make it a series. Just as a basketball fan, I like to see series go 6 or 7 games and it be a back and forth kind of battle. But I feel like Denver has a clear upper hand in this one. They're the number 1 team in the NBA for a reason this season, and they're showing it. And I talk about the path to the NBA finals that they got, but that's kind of, they earned that. You know, they earned that right to play all these underdog teams and everything, and you can only play who's in front of you, and they're really making the most of it right now. And I feel like Denver is the far superior team, but I would like to see, just for personal reasons, for Miami to make it a series, but it's going to be tough for them.
It's going to be tough. And I think kind of to both your points, you know, I think one thing which was interesting for me, you know, watching the Kings this year, you know, make the 3 seed and, you know, get coach of the year, or Mike Brown win coach of the year, was that when they played Denver in the regular season, I think they won, I think it was 3-1 on the regular season series, or maybe it was 2-2. I don't know what it was, but I think the Kings were probably the best team to match up against the Denver Nuggets. However, the Kings ran into the Warriors in the first round, and, you know, Steph had that phenomenal game 7. Obviously, the Kings lack on defense, so I mean, I can't really say that definitively they would have beat the Nuggets. But I think with the firepower and the offense the Kings had and they brought to the table, I think they would have matched up pretty well with the Denver Nuggets if they met in the conference finals. But and that's neither here nor there. I do think that, to your point,
Denver
Devin,
isn't tired.
Yeah.
Devin made the best point so far on this.
Yeah.
Denver isn't tired.
Yeah.
I piggybacked off of it by saying that I don't think Jokic's broke a sweat. Denver's not tired. They're deep. They're well rested. They have everybody healthy from what I can see. And the style of play that Jokic has doesn't necessarily put him at a physical disadvantage. He's a big, strong guy. He knows how to get his breath back after an offensive drive. I call it a drive because we play football, but after an offensive possession, he knows how to get his breath back. Gets back on the back pedal. And you see on the other side of the court, Miami is working. It to the point of where Miami will work for 3 quarters, and the fourth quarter comes around, and it's Joker time. He's just
yeah.
And it's all going in. They're going in. And I think Miami is a veteran team with veteran coaching and veteran leadership and a veteran in the front office who's won more championships than anyone on earth, which is crazy to even think about. And I think that they will win another game. Is it going to be tomorrow night? No. I don't think they win on Friday. I think they go back to Denver and win a game. And then I think Denver beats them in the consecutive games after that. And
I don't know, man. They only got that one win in elevation since 2016 or something like that.
Yeah.
It's hard for Miami to win there.
And they barely won too. I mean, let's keep it 100. If Jamal Murray makes that last shot, I mean, we might be talking about a difference. We might be saying, brush out the broomsticks. You know what I'm saying? So yeah.
So. I think you guys are right. I mean, I'm trying to be. I literally forgot about the elevation in Denver. And after being, but I think it's mostly because 1, you had lived there, Devin, and 2, I had been training in restricted breathing for months before we went to Denver. So for us, the breathing wasn't an issue. The exhaustion was an issue because of how we trained. And you, like I said, you living there and you being there for a while, you were already used to it. So I think for us, it was a little bit different. So we didn't necessarily feel it the same way everybody else did. But man, yeah, you're right about that. You go to Denver and things don't feel the same anymore.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely different playing in open air versus in an arena. But, I mean, you still feel the elevation just even from everything else that you do, Like you got to train a little different living in Denver. Like you said, I lived there for a little bit. I feel like that gave me sort of an advantage when you and I played in Denver last year. But, yeah, I mean, it's a different beast out there. The elevation is a real thing. It's no joke. I remember my first time being shocked when I was out there. It was like, I feel like I couldn't get a deep breath, even though I was taking deep breaths. It feels like you're almost like panting in a way.
Yeah. I mean, Miami and Denver could not be farther apart as far as like the polar opposite of conditions. I think that that definitely plays a part in it. And I don't know, even being professionals, that going in Miami, playing in Miami, and then flying to Denver is going to positively affect them. You get pins and needles in your feet just from being there.
Yeah.
And then if I thought about running on hardwood instead of soft turf and grass, they're running on rich mahogany. If they got to go back for 2 more games, I don't think Miami does anything there.
Yeah, they have to. Because if they somehow win, I guess 2 games and they make it a 7-game series, they're going to have to win both those games in Denver, or at least 1 minimum. So, So ultimately,
I will drink a beer out of my new Jordans if they make it a 7-game series.
Yeah.
You lucky you don't have to do that.
That's why, Devin, since when do I make bets that I can't win?
Right, yeah.
I don't make bets that I can't win. Like, everybody should know that by now. If I made a bet I think I could win. If I didn't make that bet, it's because I know I ain't got a chance of winning. My Jordans are safe. My Jordans are safe, and so is my throat from toe lint because I wear all of mine. So all of them are going to be safe. There ain't going to be no beers in my shoes. Sorry, Jimmy. Maybe next year.
Maybe next year. Yes, sir. Well, we'll see what happens. Obviously, Spoelstra is a great coach, but, this pretty much Ryan's on the wall. Let's transition finally over to pro wrestling. Obviously, we still open the show Iron Sheik. Night of Champions was a success, obviously, in Saudi Arabia. Sami Zayn, I think you mentioned Sammy didn't want to go, but he actually ended up going. He made Umrah, then he actually had one of the best matches of the night against Roman. We also had Seth Rollins. We also had winning the World Heavyweight Championship, the first inaugural world champion. Seth is now basically the first inaugural NXT champion, world champion. Golly, first ever everything, first ever cash in a Money in the Bank in WrestleMania main event. I mean, there is just too much going on with the Monday Night Messiah. And now obviously Braun Breaker is now challenging Seth Rollins to a match in NXT, and that's kind of insane. I'm not even sure how they're going to make that work, but they'll find a way, I guess. And Roman, obviously your boy with the ones, he ended up winning with the bloodlines, looking like it's crumbling based on SmackDown. So Cortez, I'm going to lead it up to you to kind of talk about kind of your impression of Night Champions. And
I'm going to do a rundown. Do a rundown. First of all, Sami Zayn, I am so proud of you in so many ways.
Yeah.
I hate your fans, though. Your Sammy fans, they hate me on the internet, and it's cool. All I did was say, good job, put my finger up, and went and lived in kayfabe. Kayfabe is not dead, but your fans seem to believe that it is. And the one thing I'm going to have to say is, regardless of everything you're doing, Sammy, oh, you can't even see it. It's cool. It's cool.
There it is. There it is.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, we're here. We the ones. All right. Put them ones up. Now, Sammy, I've been watching wrestling for a very long time. I know you don't, Siri. I've been watching wrestling. I'm not gonna finish it, but y'all can pick my brain. Y'all know me. Sammy and Kevin, I've seen this story play out before. It's only a matter of time. Kevin's unhinged right now, which means that at any moment that an opportunity to go for that title is, Sammy and Kevin are going to break up. And I don't think that Kevin supports Sammy in his goal a second time of chasing gold. I don't think that's going to happen. So moving on, Braun Breaker is getting ready for a main roster run. If you guys don't know, Braun Breaker is the son of Rick Steiner and the nephew of Scott Steiner of the famous Steiners brothers, and he does all of their moves. And he is a 2023 version of his dad and his wonderful uncle, who gave us lots of moves like the Frankensteiner. That is definitely not a Hurricane Rana, if you ask him. It's definitely not. If you ask Scott, it's definitely not a Hurricane Rana. That's fine. We don't care. The move looks cool, especially because the guy is 380 pounds. Moving on from that, Carmelo Hayes doing a great job down there in NXT. I believe you are being challenged by Baron Corbin. I don't really understand where that's supposed to go. So I'm going to skip right past that. Night of Champions. Fanfare was awesome. The Saudi crowd is the best Saudi crowd that I've ever seen. The women's matches were the best matches I've seen on the card. The tag match between Sammy and Kevin in the Bloodline, stupid match. The match was actually out of place. And the reason that I say that the match was out of place was mostly because I just don't think that Sammy and Kevin are relevant to the story anymore. And mostly because they seem to have moved on, especially Kevin. Kevin was barely relevant to the story in the first place. And just to continue, they're on different brands. You don't really see them on SmackDown anymore. And to continue with the Sammy and Kevin stuff, like, it's pretty obvious, Roman. I don't know exactly what his arc is doing right now, but it's pretty obvious that to go for championships, you might as well have challenged Rhea Ripley, Roman. You might as well have challenged Carmelo Hayes or Braun Breaker when he had the title. You might as well have challenged Austin Theory to his United States title, which would have been better if you did, or Gunther for his Intercontinental title. That would have been way better if you did any of that. But no, you wanted the tag titles, which is kind of okay. But at the same time, it's like you got three little cousins that follow you around and have your back. three little cousins that have taken bullets for you at every turn. And then you forgot that Solo is their brother. Yes, I understand that you're all family, and so this is an infighting in the family, and you're still mad because you got kicked in your face. But how many times have you beat up Jimmy? You beat Jimmy unconscious and made Jay quit for Jimmy, throw the towel in for him. You beat Jay to a bloody pulp in front of no fans who are on screens like this. You beat him to a bloody pulp. That was your cousin. So unless you want Dwayne and Fatu to come and get you, I would chill. Because if Dwayne and Fatu came, I don't think Roman comes out of that looking good.
No way.
So Rhea Ripley, do your thing. I'm not behind it, but hey, I see what it's doing. Do it. Bianca, you lost the crowd. I still like you. Trish, I'll always love you, but why are you here?
Yeah.
The girl that's with you, stop. Turn on Trish as soon as possible, because being Trish's lackey diminishes your greatness of whatever future greatness you might have. You got a great look. You got a great build. You're a little bit butch. Some people like that, but look at Rhea. It was working great for her. And then you have the last ones that I want to talk about, other than my guy, Ali. Ali, keep on doing your thing. Ali, keep on doing your thing. You see what I did there? You see what I did there? Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Well, you keep on doing that. Indashir, not sure that's going yet with our boy Jinder, intergender champion, whatever. Jinder Mahal is there as their valet. He's bald now, but he's bald by choice because he has a full head of hair. I don't know, but Jinder's there. Brock and Cody, I don't care. I don't think anyone does.
Yeah.
You guys are both megastars. Who gives a crap? You won one. He won one. Cody's got another injury to deal with now. I don't know if this is kayfabe or real.
There's definitely kayfabe. There's definitely kayfabe. It's not real.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. None of it's real. Hopefully it's not masked, because a lot of times WWE will mask one injury with a fake one. Yeah. So let's just say that that injury, CM Punk's foot injury and leg injury was where he broke that motherfucker.
Yeah.
Bleep me out. We always get one on YouTube, so we got one. There was the one F-bomb. I know the algorithm. We get one. We get one before we get one. And I slurred it. I didn't even drink nothing yet. At 7:30, when 7:30 comes up, what's going on, baby? I'm gonna crack open the shuffle.
Yes, sir.
So the last on the list is Ronda and Shayna. Who are you trying to convince? Literally, neither one of you guys are just like Bobby and Brock. You're legitimate fighters. My thing is Matt Riddle needs to convince people more than you guys do, because he got beat up a lot. Brock didn't get beat up except for once. Bobby didn't never get beat up. The only person that beat you up was really a man named Nunez. So what are you trying to do here?
He said a man named Nunez.
Yeah. Hey, Amanda, you're still my favorite girl, but it is what it is. We're on the same team at this point, if you know what I'm saying. Unless you want to switch it up. But a man named Nunez out there whipping up all these chicks, whipping on Ronda Rousey, whipping on Holly Holm, who beat Ronda Rousey. That was a good kick, Ronda. Anybody but me would have got knocked out by that, because I got a thick head, I wear helmets. So I get it. But Ronda and Shayna Baszler, y'all don't have nothing to prove, really. Shayna's got more to prove than you, Ronda. But does she really? She's intimidating. She's strong. Go out there and win something other than, you're not making the tag titles relevant by beating up people this is their first match on Raw. It's not happening. So that's what I thought about the Go Home show, the first show after, and Night of Champions. I love Seth Rollins in the belt. I think what you're doing is awesome, even if it's over the top. I want to see something else come out of you, though, Seth. I want to feel like, aside from the music playing and all of that, I want to see Seth go back to just stomping people into the ground without subterfuge.
No.
I think we saw a little bit of that on Monday, and I hope less cartoon, more Seth freaking Rollins.
100%. I think one of the things I want to just kind of talk about what you just brought up, because I mean, we did predict. I predicted Seth Cody win that belt, and I was, I did say Seth, so I was 50% right. But anyways, I agree. I think one of the things that you touched on about Brock and Cody. One of the things I read online is the fact that, WWE, they're trying to milk the Cody angle because Cody is their biggest face right now. Really, literally is. He's the literal biggest megastar. So they're trying to milk that Cody and Roman angle as much as they can before they let Cody win. Triple H is basically taking a page out of Vince McMahon's playbook when he had Stone Cold Steve Austin, and then he wants Stone Cold Steve Austin. Brett wanted the job to Austin at Survivor Series. Vince basically wanted Austin to win at WrestleMania, so he was willing to let it draw out so he can make as much money as possible, sign Mike Tyson, and make kind of blur lines between reality and fiction. So essentially what we're seeing right now is, obviously Cody kind of coming back up, that little kind of segment with Dom, which was great, for what it was, but it's not really going to go anywhere in my opinion. This is kind of what Triple H is working towards. He's seeing Cody the slow and steady build to get back to that point of contention. Obviously, that's why they brought that new undisputed title belt. Obviously, I still like this one a little bit more than that, in my opinion, because I mean, those black diamonds, that's not doing it for me personally, bro. So I mean,
it's the off gold background.
Yeah, the off gold background doesn't do it for me. If
they change the swoosh to black, and get rid of the off gold background, then it makes more sense because it looks more like an undisputed title. The undisputed title was black and gold. Yeah, because black and gold.
Yeah, like this one looks like an undisputed title. Like for sure, that looks like undisputed. That is undisputed title. That big gold belt looks like an undisputed title more so than the current belt. I don't know why they don't just bring back these designs because I mean they work. But anyways, that's neither here nor there.
I saw some really fun ones on the internet that I liked. Like
I saw it.
The new winged eagle that me and you talked about.
Oh yeah,
it was great. Yeah, but look, man, if ex-con Dom wins anything, I'm gonna be upset. They literally call him ex-con Dom. Think about that. Think about that, Devin. Ex-con Dom. He's a used contraceptive.
Yeah.
He was in prison. Ex-con Dom. He's Rey Mysterio's son. So that'll give you a little bit more.
No shit.
Yeah, that little boy, that's ex-con Dom.
Yeah. Eddie Guerrero, man, it's crazy to see how far he's come. I actually watched some of that old school Eddie Guerrero kind of Rey Mysterio clips from back in the day, and obviously the custody battle. I'm not sure, Devin, if you watched that at all, if you remember that, but that was the one of the classic times in WWE.
Rey Mysterio was my guy growing up, man.
Yeah,
that was my dude. That was my favorite dude, just because he was.
That's why I said it, because I remember.
Yeah. So again, back to this belt, Rey Mysterio, that was his first world title. This belt right here. I mean, essentially, I think in Eddie Guerrero, he won this belt. That was my guy personally. I mean, Eddie was one of my guys. Kurt Angle behind that belt. If you guys can see that team angle with Shelton Benjamin, right? Another brother kind of holding down, right? So I think ultimately
we got to get Schulte on the show.
Yes, we do. I tried to get him, but I got Rodney Mack, and Rodney Mack, when I had the episode up like 2 years ago, Sheldon actually saw it on my story, but he liked it, but he didn't. I was like, hey,
he's hard to get on podcasts.
He really is, because I mean he's under contract with WWE. If you're under contract with WWE, then they have certain limitations as to what you can and cannot do, what kind of media appearances you can make, and what you can't do, what you can't make. So but obviously,
that's why my favorite faking Jamaican won't answer.
Yeah, yeah. And then Mustafa Ali, obviously, holding down for the Pakistani, brothers out there. I'm looking forward to seeing. That was a great match against Gunther at Night Champions. I'm looking forward to seeing what he does in NXT. I think he's going to do great. I think he's going to make a title run at some point. I'm not sure what he's going to win. He hasn't won a single championship yet in the organization, but he will win one at some point. I did just credible on today. We talked about his kind of come up, and sometimes you just gotta find your way a little bit, and it's really cool to kind of see where wrestling is right now. Obviously, there's a lot more interest in it, and
I need Ali to go in on having a solid character.
Oh yeah, no, he's not. He's still not there yet.
If he goes in on having Ali, just be you, because you are dope as a person. I got to see you in the hallways. I got to see you wrestle at Bolingbrook High School. Just be you. You're awesome. Be that guy that goes out there and can do everything. And hopefully, and I know you probably already know this because WWE will tell you what to do sometimes because that's how it works there. But if they let you be you, just be you. And I think in NXT, Shawn Michaels will let you do it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Shawn Michaels hitting home runs, Triple H hitting home runs. I mean, Vince actually wrote the last Raw show, which was actually really good. So people only blame Vince. Say Vince wins a bad show, but it was actually a pretty good show. So
Vince, look, Vince can be a despicable human all he wants to. $9 billion is all I got to say.
Oh man, oof, it's money.
$9 billion.
It's money. You know what I mean?
We like nines over here.
All righty. Well, that is it for today's rundown. I think we're pretty much good to go. We pretty much today's show. I mean, obviously, that's almost 2 hours worth of content. So I want to appreciate everyone for tuning in.
We missed one thing.
Oh, okay. We'll keep it going. Tell me.
PGA Tour is merging with Live Golf.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I'm going to have him talk more because me and him both called this like 3 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the floor is yours. Item 9.
No, man. I just I didn't happen to catch PTI the other day, but I was just thinking about that. I'm like, man, that might lead headlines today. That's a big deal. And they're big on the golf over there. Like every time Booger McFarland shows up on the show, they always compliment him on his polo that he's wearing. It's always a polo from some exclusive country club around America. So yeah, but I didn't see that coming, if I'm being honest with you. Like I thought they came on to be direct competition with them, but I think it's better for the sport of golf that they are merging. They get their stars and everybody's happy essentially. PGA probably not as happy as everybody else, but
new courses.
Yeah.
You get new courses and you reinvigorate the sport of golf. And you might have forgotten this conversation that we made. So Tiger Woods has joined with a couple other veteran golfers to create a new golf league that's going to be more similar to like a team golf.
Okay.
So it's going to be in a smaller facility, three versus three, doing something that's a little bit revolutionary in the sport of golf, and that's keeping points in a different type of system other than just par. And I'm interested to see where that goes, and to see what superstars can arise from that type of golf, and to see where the new heights. Because America's interested in golf. It's just that, let's face the facts. If we're going to talk about golf, I'm going to go to Top Golf before I go to a range. I mean, before I go to an actual an actual golf course. And that's not just because a golf course is boring. No, it's because there's live entertainment at Top Golf. There's liquor at Top Golf. There's a stationary place where I can hit golf balls all day and not break a sweat, versus being outside on a Sunday morning hitting golf balls on a course and sweating through my expensive polo that I'm sure to wear at the country club. So and that's something that I think that they're bringing the arena style, as I call it, arena style golf to American televisions, and I believe early next year or late this year. We're going to see how good that goes. We talked a little bit about that. So before everything gets over, we like to do this thing during our wrap up. Devin, I want you to tell everybody where they can find you at on the interwebs, and give me one goal that you have for yourself before the end of the summer.
Man, end of the summer, I wanna try to get to Switzerland before the summer's over. I want to see that. That's always been a goal of mine to make it there. I'm not too far away, so hopefully I can check that off my bucket list, if you will. But yeah, you can find me Instagram, item9.exists. That's me on Instagram. Feel free to write me a message, reach out, comments, likes, whatever.
100%. No.
Where can we catch you at on the weekends playing your football these days?
Oh, I'm in the GFL, playing here, really enjoying it. We don't have a game this upcoming weekend, but next weekend I'll definitely get y'all involved with that for sure. I'll drop a link, and maybe on the next show you guys can share it or whatever.
100%. We definitely can. Devin, once again, thank you, brother, for being here. Appreciate you.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
100%. Cortez, my brother, always pleasure. Everyone, thank you all for tuning in. Once again, DDOG Podcast, at DDOG Podcast on Twitter, at Digital Dreaming Off the Gridiron Podcast on Spotify Podcasts, not Anchor anymore, Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Pocket Casts. You know where to find us. Spread the word. Shout out to today's other guest, Just Incredible.
I was gonna say, go watch Just Incredible. Yeah. Go watch that show. Yes, watch that show. That's a show you need to watch.
Man, it was a phenomenal 50 minutes or less what we could do, and half the time that we had, but we were able to cover so much ground. So I'm looking forward to having him back on at some point in the future too. To our sponsors, everyone, thank you all. Continue to tune me in. We have just, for everyone who has not been following us on socials, let me just repeat it on air. We have clips over 10,000 total plays on YouTube. We have clips over 1,000 total plays on all other media stream platforms. And we've over clips over 11 countries total streaming: India, Australia, Saudi Arabia, England, Canada, Mexico, Colombia, the Caribbeans, and I believe there's 2 more countries I'm forgetting. I apologize. So, I'll pull up those numbers
big
later.
Shout out to Costa Rica for watching the Costa Rican episodes, both before and after.
I apologize. Costa Rica, that's number 9.
Yeah, I gotta be grateful for that one. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
I got it.
Yep.
This next one's gonna have a lot of Japanese people on it, I guarantee it.
Yeah, actually, I think the US is 1, so I think it's maybe a missing one. But ultimately, over 10 countries I just listed. Continue sharing, continue spreading the word, help us grow our footprint. I'm your host, Oscar Lee, my co-host, Devon, Cortez. We are out. Peace.